New day, new video. What am I up to? Let's have a look. Alright, the aim of this video is to get that bloody engine in the bloody hole. I've had enough, I want it in. This is dragging its heels, so let's get it done. What do I need to do? Well, I need someone to help me put it in so we don't wreck the paint. But besides that, I have been fiddling around with, got the wiper motor plugged back in, but I have been fiddling around with fuel pump power. When I originally pulled the 6-cylinder out, that was the power for the fuel pump. When I yanked it out, it pulled the terminal off and it stayed in the harness. And now the harness in here is very short and very difficult to get to. And I've been trying to get that terminal out, and of course it was so stuck in there that I broke it and destroyed it. It's severely deformed now. That's not gonna go together. So that was probably all up, probably an hour to get that out. Anyway, so what I've done here is just terminals that I've got laying around, made an end to go on that. So I will solder that on so that doesn't want to come off. And this is the plug that it does plug into. So this is original VK harness, which has your power to the fuel pump and your starter relay, everything in there. This is all your starting harness that you need from your VK. And I'm pretty sure it's that pink wire, so the terminals that I'm using do plug straight into that. Now whether I can then get that terminal down through to this hole here, which, you know, it's a bit mashed up there, is another question, or I just put it to the side. We'll see what happens. The engine has to go in first before they can all be plugged together. So the way I've got it sitting there, unless I take the whole harness off, that's staying with the motor. I should probably feed those wires back through the hole in the firewall. Because oh no, probably still have room. But maybe get them out onto the rail here so they a bit more access so they can be plugged into the fuse box. Other than that, I think it's ready to go in. I'm not going to put that bottom plate there in because I know from last time when the engine crane comes up, it sits right up on there, so I want a bit of flex there for a bit of give so we can get the motor in properly. If that plate's in there, it's going to hit the paint, scratch it, no good. I'm hoping I've got some carpet or something laying around that I can wrap around the front of the car so the top and the front don't get damaged, and we'll stick some cardboard around the bottom of the tunnel or something like that to prevent that from scratching, and hopefully the thing slots in quite nicely. So I'm hoping I can get my older brother Roscoe to come up next weekend to do this. This is currently the weekend before, so if I can get it prepped and ready and he can come, we can whack it in, and hopefully it'll be in within 10-15 minutes. Exhaust pipes also need a little bit of massaging. I have marked down there, it just needs a little bit of massaging to clear the steering rack, I think it is. But I'll get cracking on bits and bobs and see how we go. I have grabbed the exhaust and whacked it in the vise, and I did mark that there, and I believe I need the clearance here, which it looks like I've already had a go at. So I might heat that up, give it a little bit more, maybe even just slightly go past that so it fits. And the other thing I'm thinking about is changing the cat while it's out. We'll see if I can get those bolts undone. And if I can, we'll change it. As you'll be able to see there, I heated up that part of the pipe. The yellow texture went white, gave it a good couple of smacks. It's touchable now. Just got rid of that flat edge there, smoothed it down a bit, and we'll see how that goes. I did manage to crack the cat bolts, so I'll probably order one of those. And I also put the main harness back in to the firewall, and then that's all the wires that go to the fuse box and headlights. We do have to run back into the car the computer wires, and there is a little space for that underneath there, so we'll just leave that like that for the moment. Paint protection sorted. What I've got here is 10mm foam that I've wrapped all the way around and then doubled up this section here. So we've actually got 20mm here because when the trans and the oil pan come over, it wants to sit on here, so that's protection for that. And then here I've got this firewall protection, because from experience, I think as the motor's going in, the back of the motor hits the firewall. I don't want to scratch that, so that's in place there. We'll get that rag out before. Brakes haven't started leaking, so that's good. I did a little bit more wiring behind there through the firewall, and the cat has come in. Here we have it, a black cat. So it's pretty much the same size as the standard one in length, but obviously a hell of a lot smaller diameter, that part. So that's doing catty things in there. Doesn't actually say flow, which direction the flow goes on it, so that'll be interesting. But it does come with a couple of gaskets and hardware, so that's good. So I will take that off before installation on the car, and I'll probably put that on when it's under the car, so we can get the location correct. So I reckon the next thing you should be seeing is this getting ready to go back in that hole. Or at least I'm hoping anyway. And then we can start that fun. See you when it's ready. Alright, so it's time to get this motor back into the car. So I discussed with the brother that I lowered the front of the car that 2 inches so we could get it over the top of the front of the car, and lower control arms were measuring at 19.5 centimeters, 20.5 centimeters, sorry, and the crane is actually 19.5. So we're just discussing will it go under the car or not. So we thought, let's give it a crack. If it doesn't, we'll jack the front up. But because I got that silly step at the front of the garage, we have to kind of maneuver the crane around in a certain way so that the back wheels don't fall over that ledge, because once it goes over there, you can't get it back in. So we have to slowly maneuver around, as you can see here, without getting it outside the shed. And as we get it round, just lift it up on top of the front of the car there, and realize that the transmission's not going to swing over the strut towers. So at this stage I'm going to go find some rope to see if we can, well, Ross lifts it, I'm gonna swing it over and then we'll put it in the tunnel just like that, and then kind of guide it down so we don't hit anything. But what we come across, we can get it almost in, but we're about 3 inches shy of the engine mounts before I realise I need to get the jack the back of the trans up, and that gets us to move in just that little bit more that we need to start pushing the motor back. So all in all, it was a pretty simple process, but a bit of stuffing around. But you know, that foam on the front of the car turned out to be perfect because it protected it from everything, and the cardboard on the firewall did its job as well. But we're just trying to line up the engine mounts. The left-hand engine mount was slightly off kilter. The right-hand side one was going in well. So it was just, you know, trying to maneuver the thing to get it in without doing any damage. I ended up leaving that the high pressure power steering hose in, and we originally cable tied it to the side, but that broke off pretty much straight away. But we did end up maneuvering that around, and that's pretty close to being in already. But heck yeah, it's in. It's in. I don't believe we did any scratches. Yee-ha. But now it's got to come back up so I can get the exhaust back in. Next day, and I've been out here doing a few things. First thing I did pick up, I took the cardboard off from the back there and noticed a huge scratch in the firewall. And what had happened is the fuel pressure regulator was obviously hitting the firewall and put a couple of gougers in it. So I've just got the leftover paint from painting the engine bay and just touched it up, and you would never notice. Sun glare is pretty bad in here, so probably making it better than what it is, but yeah, it's very hard to notice what even happened there. And I've been fighting and fighting under the car and have the exhaust manifold hand bolted up with the four screws or nuts. That piece of junk jack is useless, but if I can get you under here and we have a look, that is hand tightened in and resting on that silly jack, but that was not fun. I don't remember how I did it last time, but I don't remember it being that difficult. It fell out so many times, but the good thing was I didn't have to jack the engine back up to get that flange in to bolt to the manifold on this side. But, you know, the first time this motor went in, it never did that. So something's a little different there, but that's okay. I'm not complaining. Probably one more thing to do is I'll get the trans cross member in and then call it done for this video, and then start redoing all the wiring. I've got to put oil in it. It's got no oil, it's got no trans fluid, it's got no fluids in whatsoever, so I have to do that before we do anything. I can do some wiring and stuff and put a few more things on, like battery tray can go back in, airbox, whatever else needs to go, fuse box, get that chain off. That's been on there for freaking ever. I'll show you this high pressure power steering. There's where it's resting, and it's already sitting up with the back of the hole. So what we did is I bent it that way originally to go under the sway bar, and that's the way it needed to go, because if it was on top it would interfere with the belt. So now it goes behind the pump. So that should work out well. And if we come down here, it's not going to interfere with anything here. It's no lower than the K-frame or anything. So as long as there's no bloody holes in it from bending it and reshaping it, that should be good to go. I do, however, need to try and get my hands in there and tighten those fittings, because they are still hand tight. Sorry about the light, but yeah, they're just hand tight in there, so they do need to be tightened. So on that note, I will battle on with this trans cross member, because that's going to fight me like hell, and I'll catch you up then. Back again underneath the car, and you'll be able to see there that the trans cross member is now in, all bolted up, and the exhaust is probably 90% in. So that's where I'm going to leave it for this video. Being 2 to 2.5 hours underneath the car with the sore back is not easy. It's all right while you're lying down, but when you get up, too much. So that's where I'm going to leave it here. So finally, the motor's back in, and that's where it's going to stay. Haven't done up the engine mounts yet, but as just mentioned, trans cross members in, it's not going anywhere. So the next video we'll continue putting things in for the final time and see how we go. So hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.